Hello dear audience. Today's story follows lytucan police officer Henry as they embark on a journey to investigate the mysterious disappearance of her parents. Through discovered clues, they trace the trail to a dark conspiracy led by a powerful mastermind who eliminated lytucan's parents because they knew too many dangerous secrets. Will they be able to uncover the truth and bring justice to the family? Follow along to explore this thrilling and emotional journey. The morning mist still lingered on the wooden windowsill when lytucan stumbled upon the old chest buried beneath broken floorboards in the dusty storage room. It was a chest she had never seen before, its surface marked with time, its lock already rusted through. Something about it made her hands tremble. She pried it open, heart pounding, only to discover faded documents, an old photograph of her parents smiling in front of a building she didn't recognize, and a weather-worn leather-bound journal. As she flipped through the brittle pages, a familiar handwriting leapt from the pages. It was her mother's. She hadn't seen it in over 20 years. Her eyes scanned quickly, desperately, until she reached the final entries. The last one stopped her cold. If you are reading this, it means your father and I are gone. Not missing, dead. We found out too much, and they won't let us live to speak. My dearest Kai, forgive us for not telling you sooner. We tried to protect you. Kai's breath caught in her throat. Her vision blurred as the journal slipped from her fingers and landed with a dull thud on the wooden floor. Hours later, she stood outside the police station, holding the journal to her chest as if it were the only thing keeping her together. She needed answers, she needed someone she could trust. She found him where she always had, Officer Henry, the quiet, dedicated man who had once been in charge of her parents' missing persons case, until the investigation was mysteriously shut down by orders from above. When Henry saw her, pale and shaken, he knew something was wrong. They lied to me, Henry, Kai whispered, handing him the journal. They said my parents disappeared. But they were killed. And this proves it. He took the journal, reading the entry in silence. His jaw clenched. I always knew something wasn't right with that case, he said, voice low. But the file was sealed. I was told to let it go. I can't, she said, her voice breaking. They were my family. I need to know the truth. Will you help me? Henry nodded without hesitation. We'll reopen this case unofficially. But you need to be ready, Kentucky. If what your mother wrote is true, we're not just dealing with a simple cover-up. We could be going up against something far bigger. Together, they returned to the storage room. Henry began documenting the contents of the chest. Among the items, he found a grainy photo of Kai's parents standing next to a man in military uniform, his face partially obscured, but a distinctive scar across his left brow stood out. Do you recognize him? Henry asked. Kai shook her head. No, but my mother always warned me, never trust a man who hides behind a uniform. I never knew what she meant until now. They scanned the rest of the contents, uncovering a set of coded letters and a blueprint of an old government research facility decommissioned over 2 decades ago. At the bottom of one page was a single line scribbled in red ink. The truth is buried where silence was born. Henry looked at Kai, his eyes serious. This isn't just about your parents anymore. Whatever they uncovered, someone powerful wanted it silenced. Kai nodded, tears drying on her cheeks, her resolve hardening. Then let's go where silence was born. And so began their journey, not just into the mystery of her parents' death, but into the heart of a conspiracy that could shatter everything they thought they knew. The deeper Henry and lytuca dug into the puzzle left behind by her parents, the darker the truth became. Every clue pulled them further from the surface and deeper into a web of lies, secrets, and danger that seemed to stretch beyond anything they had imagined. Following the coordinates scribbled in the journal and the blueprints, they arrived at the edge of a dense, forbidding forest. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, but the silence was heavier than the morning mist itself. This was the place her mother had cryptically called "where silence was born," a long-abandoned government research facility, hidden from the world and erased from every map. Henry's hand instinctively rested on the grip of his pistol as they pushed through the underbrush. This place was shut down after a scandal, but no one ever said what really happened here, he said quietly. Witnesses vanished, files disappeared. It was as if the earth swallowed the truth. Lytuca shivered, not just from the cold but from a growing sense of foreboding. "Why would my parents be connected to this?" she whispered. "They weren't just connected," Henry said grimly. "They worked here. And they uncovered something so dangerous that powerful people wanted them gone." As they reached the crumbling gates, they noticed fresh tire tracks leading inside. Henry's eyes narrowed. "We're not alone." Inside, the facility was a ghost town. Broken glass crunched underfoot, and graffiti scrawled warnings on rusted walls. Flickering lights from their flashlights revealed abandoned offices littered with files and equipment, all coated in decades of dust. But Henry's sharp eyes caught something unusual, a hidden door cleverly concealed behind a false wall. With cautious hands, he pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. They descended into the cold depths below, where the air was stale and the only sound was the echo of their footsteps. At the bottom, they found a series of underground rooms that looked like they hadn't seen daylight in years. There were old computers, stacks of files, and, most disturbingly, a small makeshift prison cell. It was here they discovered a battered tape recorder and a partially erased cassette. Henry's hands trembled slightly as he pressed play. The grainy voice that emerged was unmistakable, her father's. "My dearest Kai, if you are hearing this, it means our enemies have caught up with us. We uncovered a secret project, one designed to silence witnesses permanently. We tried to escape but..." The recording cut off abruptly. Lytuca's breath hitched. They knew too much, and they tried to stop them. Henry nodded grimly. "Your parents were whistleblowers. They found proof of a covert operation involving mind control and forced disappearances. People who knew too much just vanished without a trace. And the mastermind behind it all is someone no one would expect." Suddenly, a noise echoed down the corridor. Footsteps. They weren't alone. Henry grabbed Lytuca's hand and pulled her into the shadows as two armed men in tactical gear appeared, their faces obscured by masks. The men spoke quietly into radios, unaware of their hidden observers. One said, "They're back. The girl and the cop. Orders are to eliminate any threats." Heart pounding, Henry squeezed Lytuca's hand. "We have to get out now." They retraced their steps swiftly, adrenaline pushing them beyond exhaustion. Just as they reached the surface, Henry fired a warning shot behind them. The masked men paused, then gave chase. Through the forest, under low branches and tangled roots, they ran for their lives until finally, they burst into the open air, gasping for breath. Safe for the moment, Henry looked at Lytuca, Kentucky. This goes beyond a family tragedy. Your parents' death was part of a larger conspiracy, a ruthless campaign to erase anyone who dared to reveal the truth. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was steady. Then we have to finish what they started. We owe it to them and to everyone who was silenced. Henry nodded, determination burning in his gaze. Together, we'll expose the darkness. And so, armed with the fragments of the past and their unbreakable resolve, they prepared to face the unseen enemy lurking just beyond the shadows. The sun was setting behind the city skyline, casting long shadows across the streets as Henry and Lytuca sat quietly in their safe house. The tape, the files, the close call at the facility, everything pointed to one chilling truth: the mastermind behind the conspiracy was still out there, watching, waiting. Days of relentless investigation led them to a name whispered in hushed tones across government corridors and dark alleyways alike, a man who once held immense power as the director of national security, now disguised as a wealthy businessman enjoying his comfortable exile from public scrutiny. His name was Min Quan. Henry's fingers hovered over the encrypted files they had just decrypted. Quan's fingerprints are everywhere: the disappearances, the cover-ups, even the secret projects your parents uncovered. He built his empire on lies and silence. Lytuca clenched her fists. And my parents, they were the ones who dared to challenge him. Determined to confront this shadowy figure, they devised a plan to infiltrate Quan's heavily guarded estate under the cover of night. With forged credentials and meticulous preparation, they slipped past perimeter alarms and patrolling guards, heartbeats pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. Inside, the mansion was a stark contrast to the sinister legacy it concealed: lavish furnishings, walls adorned with expensive art, and a sense of cold, calculated control. They found Min Quan in his study, a tall, imposing man with a sharp gaze that betrayed no surprise at their arrival. A faint, sinister smile curled his lips. So, the little girl and her bodyguard finally arrive, Quan said smoothly. I wondered how long it would take you to dig up my past. Lytuca stepped forward, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. You killed my parents. You destroyed our lives because they knew the truth. Quan's smile deepened. Truth is a luxury for fools. Your parents were liabilities, nothing more. I did what was necessary to protect my interests. Henry's eyes blazed with anger. And you thought you could bury the truth forever? Power is about control, Quan said, rising from his chair. And I control the narrative. Suddenly, Henry produced a small recorder. We have the evidence, Quan. Your recorded orders, the witnesses, the proof of your crimes. It's over. Quan's expression darkened. You think a few files and tapes will bring me down? You underestimate the reach of those who hold power. Just then, the sound of sirens echoed outside. Henry's backup team had arrived, tipped off by a covert signal he triggered earlier. Realizing his defeat, Quan slumped back into his chair. You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. As police officers stormed the estate, handcuffing Quan, Lytuca allowed herself a moment to breathe. Standing before the man who had shattered her family, she felt a mix of sorrow and relief. Later, at her parents' memorial site, she whispered, "Thank you for your courage. Because of you, justice will be served." Henry stood beside her, offering quiet strength. Your parents didn't die in vain. Their truth will live on. Under the fading light, lytuca vowed to continue fighting, not just for her family, but for all who had been silenced in the shadows.